Alright, so today we are talking, more about maximizing, and it's just slightly different. So we're using the quadratic formula. So remember that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're using that formula to figure out some unknowns in our problem. Okay, so it says a rectangular garden, 42 by 20 feet, so 42 by 20, is surrounded by a walkway of uniform width. Okay, so we'll draw a cute little uniform walkway. There we go. Okay, if the total area of the garden and walkway, so all together, is 1,248 square feet, what is the width of the walkway? Okay, so we're going to use our quadratic equation to figure this out. So in order to figure out the whole area of this rectangle, area is length times width. So we have to kind of use equations and formulas from a few years ago and apply them to this, some basic formulas. So I know my total area of this whole rectangle is 1248. And now I need to figure out my entire length and my entire width, because I know that my length times my width will give me my area. Well, I know part of it is 20 and part of this is 42, but I'm missing pieces. So the whole line is going to be 42 and some other pieces. Well, since this is supposed to be a uniform walkway, then I know that this measurement from here to here is the same as this measurement from here to here, and that makes up our whole length. So if I have this little piece and my 42 and this little piece. So since I know this little piece and this little piece are going to be the same measurements, we'll call him x. And then he has to have an x on that side as well. So the whole length of this garden and the walkway is going to be 42 and x and x. But we can simplify that to 42 plus 2 x's. Similarly, we're going to have the same thing on the width. So I know that the inside is 20. I also know that this whole walkway is uniform, which means that it has the same width all the way around. I know that this piece and this piece are going to be the same, and they're the same as the other two pieces. So we're going to call that guy x and that guy x, and it's the same thing. So my length is 20 and some other bits and some other bits. But we can simplify that to 20 plus 2x. Okay, so now I know my total length is 42 and 2 x's, and I know my total width is 20 and 2 x's. So now we're going to solve for x. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to distribute, fancy distribute, this 42 to the 20 and the 2x. So we still have that 1248, because that's our total area. So 42 times 20 is 840. And 42 times 2 x's is 84 x's. And then we have to distribute this guy. So 2x times 20 is 40 x's. And then 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Now we're going to combine some like terms. So we're going to combine these cute little x's here. So we still have 1248 equals 840. And 84 and 40 make 124 x's. And then I still have my 4x squared. Now, in order to use the quadratic equation, I can't have anything over here. This number needs to be equal to 0. So I am going to subtract 1248 on each side, 48, by its like term. So it needs to be subtracted from that 840. That makes this guy equal to 0. 840 minus 1248 is negative 408. And 124x and 4x squared. But we can write it the other way since we're used to that. 4x squared plus 124x minus 408 equals 0. So now this is in standard form. So we are trying to figure out what x is. And in order to figure out what x is, we have two options. You can big X, like divide everything by 4 and then big X it. Or you could just use a quadratic and then you don't have to worry about your leading coefficient, which is what I would suggest. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, then you're going to type this as you read it in your calculator. Okay, just type the whole thing in. I'll show you. Okay, so we're just doing the square root part. 124 squared minus 4 times negative 408, and you get 148. So now we have negative 124 plus minus 148 all over 8. Okay, so we have two possible answers, or two potential answers. I'll zoom in a little. Sorry about that. Okay, so I have negative 124 plus 148 divided by 8, or negative 124 minus 148 divided by 8. When you do this, you get 3, and when you do this, you get negative 34. So now you have to figure out what makes sense. So I'm trying to figure out my length of my walkway, or the width of my walkway. So if my width is negative 34, well, that's not real. So that's not going to work. One of the two answers are just not going to work. So you have to figure out which of the two it is. It's pretty obvious, actually. It might seem weird, but it's pretty obvious. And then here I have 3, and a width of 3, a walkway around this whole garden, that seems pretty right. So that's what we're going to write down. So the width of the walkway is 3 feet. And there's your answer. And if you wanted to, you could plug 3 feet back in to figure out like this length. So 2 times 3 is 6. So this would be 42 plus 6. So this would be a length of 48. And then for our height, we'd have the same thing. So this is 20 plus 6, because 2 times 3. So that would be 26 for the height. And then that area, the total area, should be 1248. So we're going to multiply 26, which is the total width of our whole garden and the walkway, times the length of everything together, which is 48, and we get 1248. So we did this correctly. Okay, to be considered a movie poster, the dimensions of the height of the poster must be 14 inches less than double the width. If the total area of the poster is 180 inches squared, what are the dimensions of the poster? Okay, so draw yourself a poster, some sort of rectangle. Okay, and then it says that the height must be 14 inches less than, okay, anyways, we know what the width is. It's going to be something. Now, the height is the one that gets tricky. So the height of the poster is 14 inches less than double the width. So I got to double my width, less than that by 14 inches, and that is my height. Okay, so remember, area is still the same thing. It's length times width, or height times base. It doesn't matter. The sides multiplied by each other. One of the short sides and one of the long sides. Okay, so my total area is 1080, and I have W times 2W minus 14, because I have my length and my width, or the other way, my width and my length. Okay, distribute. So for these, my hint to you is keep them all with the same letter. You don't want to change letters, because in our quadratic formula, in our quadratic equation, in our standard equation, we have some sort of variable squared. So if you have 2 variables, we don't use that ever for our quadratic, and all of these are going to be able to be solved using quadratic. So you want to keep the letters the same, whatever letter you pick, it doesn't matter. It's what's the relationship to each other and how do we figure out the answer? So that's what we're really trying to look at here. So we've got 1080 equals 2w squared minus 14w. And in order to use a quadratic, this guy has to be equal to 0. So we just bump our c value to the other side. So we have 2w squared minus 14w minus 1080 equals 0. So now we are going to plug this into our quadratic equation, or quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, negative and negative make positive 14 plus minus, then plug all that business into the calculator. Just be careful about that cute little negative squared. Okay, you should use parentheses, negative 14, parentheses, then square. Then it's negative 4 times 2 times negative 1080. And we get 94 over 4. So again, just like the other answer, we'll get one real answer and one answer that's not quite, it's off a little bit. So you have the positive and the negative version. When we divide here, we get positive 27. When we divide here, we get negative 5. So we can't have negative measurements for posters or anything. That guy's not going to work. Okay, now I want to know the dimensions of the poster. So I want to know what these are. So exactly what we did on the top one, but now it's like for reals. So we're going to plug 27 in for w because that's what we just solved for. So 2 times 27 minus 14, and then this w is 27. And 2 times 27 minus 14 is 40. So we have a width of 27 inches, and we have a height of 40 inches. And that is our movie poster. Okay, one more. The height of a triangular sail is 16 feet taller than its base. The area of the sail is 210 feet squared. Calculate the height and the base of the sail. So we have a cute little sail. We're going to go sailing. Okay, and remember, for triangles, in order to figure out the height, you go from the very top, like this vertex, and then straight down perpendicular to its base. So it should touch its base at a 90-degree angle. And then the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height because it's half of a rectangle or half of a square. Okay, so it's not the full thing. All right, so I know that my area is 210, and then I've got my 1/2. Okay, then it says the height of the triangular sail is 16 feet taller than its base. So we have this base number. And then the height that goes from here down is the base, but it's also 16 feet taller. So it's really similar to number 2. It's just not subtracting, it's adding. Okay, so my base is B, and my height is always in relationship with my base. So it's whatever base measurement I have and 16 more feet. Okay, so here you have a few options. You could distribute and then distribute the half, but that might be messy. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide each side by a half. Remember, we don't really divide by halves, we multiply by reciprocals. So this 1/2 divided by 210 actually doubles, and that doubles that to 420. So then I have B, and then B plus 16. I need to distribute the B. So now I have 420 equals b squared plus 16b, but remember, we don't want any number on this side, so we are going to get rid of it to give us just 0. So now I have b squared plus 16b minus 420. Now we have to solve for b. In order to solve for b, we're going to use the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oops, that got bananas. Okay, we've got negative 16 out in front, plus minus. let's do this guy. Square root 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 420. And we get 44 over 2. Then again we split, negative 16 plus 44 over 2, and negative 16 minus 44 over 2. Then do each of these and throw out the weird one. So when I simplify this, I get 14. And when we simplify this, we get negative 30. So negative 30 is not going to work. Okay, and then I want to get the height and the base. So my base is 14 feet. Oh no. And then my height is 14 plus 16, which is a total of 30. So my height is 30 feet. All right, let me know if you guys have any questions, and have fun. Bye.